I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, January the 26th, brought to you in part by the new Nasalgen. Bovalis Nasalgen 3 PMH is a one-of-a-kind respiratory vaccine that is safe to use in young calves for a strong, healthy foundation. It's a brand new product. You guys need to check it out. For more information, go to unmatchedprotection.com. Time to pick sides, and we're getting right down here to where we're going to decide who's for the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act of 2021 and who's against it. We're at a crossroads right here, people. This is a bill, and we have to have it to save us from ourselves, meaning the cattle industry. We've got to have it to save us from ourselves. The bill, the main part of it, establishes minimum requirements for packers to participate in negotiated trade. And we're seeing a lot of people come out for it. We're seeing a lot of people come out against it. It's all going to kind of come to a head here next week when we go to Houston, and it's going to be the NCBA's convention and the big trade show that they have down there. There won't be a lot of people in those meetings, but they're going to be having the meetings in there, and they're going to have a debate about it, and eventually they'll have a vote about it and decide what side they're going to be on. You guys think, well, now you're going to bag on NCBA again. I'm not. NCBA is made up of a lot of state affiliates, and there are a ton of those state affiliates that are for this bill, and they are for preserving negotiated trade, price discovery, active market, supply and demand, and seeing what happens. And so no, I'm definitely not going to be against those. A lot of the big ones, Missouri and Iowa, a lot of the places where you have farmer feeders out there that are still trying to do things, the small way. Who are they fighting against? Well, a lot of the leadership of NCBA and some of the states that have bigger commercial lots and overwhelmingly corporate lots that are in partners with the packers, namely Texas Cattle Feeders Association and KLA, or Kansas Livestock Association. So they're all going to come together. They are going to debate about this, and they are going to vote. The problem is, it's not fair. You've got these states where you have these large amounts of big commercial feedlots. They got more votes than some of the other states, especially you go down in the southeast, and those are where your cows are at. A lot of them that are fed, especially in Texas Panhandle and southwest Kansas. Those cattle originally come from the southeast, a lot of them do, and a lot of those calves are end up being fed, in the southern plains. But they've got the votes, and they're totally against that because the packers don't want it. Of course they don't want it. They can say that they want the AMAs, or alternative marketing agreements. A lot of those feedlots and a lot of those guys in the southern plains don't participate in those. It's just a formula deal. You just promise them your cattle, and that way your packers don't have to hedge or anything like that, because they've got all their needs filled. They can call it an alternative marketing agreement. You're just promising them all of your cattle. Well, that does two things. It takes care of their needs, and it takes care of your sales, so you don't have to sweat it. You don't have to worry about, you're going to get to sell your cattle near the market that the few guys that are still selling cattle cash established for you. So, how do you talk guys out of it? It's working for them. They're working on huge, numbers and a big volume there. They've got economies of scale on their side. Most of the guys that are for the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act are smaller feeders, guys doing it on a smaller scale that want a fair shot. They're not big enough to get in good with the packers. The packers talk about getting all these premiums out of the cattle. When it comes down to the nut cutting and you go to sell those cattle, who has the biggest voice? It's not necessarily the guy with the best cattle. It's the guy that has the most of them. The guy that has the most gold makes the rules, and that's the golden rule. So you got the guys with the huge feedlots, or the corporations with the largest feedlots, and the corporations with the big packing houses, and they're the ones that get to decide this. So your smaller guys that are trying to raise the best cattle, and you say, no, that's not right, it's not right. Where are the best cattle in this United States raised, as far as fat cattle? The highest quality cattle, the cattle that hit the marks when it comes to grading, on whatever kind of grid you want to talk about, where are they at? They're in Iowa, people. And Iowa is absolutely for maintaining negotiated trade and for this bill, and they still sell about half their cattle negotiated cash in Iowa. Is that a coincidence? Where are the plainest cattle fed as far as your 5 area in Texas? And they have the least amount of trade. So you think that's a coincidence? So do you think these AMAs really promote more trade? No. Do your better cattle promote more trade? Yes. And because that's where you can get paid more, and you'll have people that argue and say, well, guys aren't getting paid for their top quality carcasses. Packers can pay more for them any time that they want to. Just give them more money. You don't have to go through some kind of a formulated deal. Pay them more for the cattle. You see that at times whenever your packers are really, really hungry for top grading cattle, they'll come out and pay people more for them. But they don't want to have to do it very often. They would, of course, rather get more of them through these formula deals and these AMAs, and then they can hide the best cattle, make the guys feel better about what they're getting because they plus the market and they beat their neighbor down the road. And so that's kind of the way things have gone. But the way this still works is why does NCBA have so much of it? Well, they're still the biggest. They got the most members. Why? Because people that want to retain ownership, that come out here to feed cattle with economies of scale in some of these big commercial lots, and they get into a member feed yard, and they get to pay membership and belong whether they want to or not. That's the way that goes. But that's fine. But we had a big debate about this there whenever they were in the summer conference there of NCBA, and they had a big fight about what they were going to do. And you had the same sides. You had the Midwestern guys that were wanting to preserve negotiated trade, and you had the Southern Plains that wanted to crawl in bed with the packer. So the guys that had the most votes won. But that they didn't just completely steamroll them. It was a democracy, and they said, I tell you what we're going to do is we're going to try this voluntary 75% of a robust market deal. I'm not sure exactly what the name of it was. I love to call it the 75% of a robust market, because they had set levels they said were a robust market, and they tried to get 75% of them. Well, they thought that their packer buddies were going to help them out with this deal. No, they do not want to do that. When you have to negotiate on anything, there's a chance that you're going to have to pay more for it if you're on the buying end. And that's why the packers don't want to do it, and that's why they're just gritting their teeth and fighting as hard as they can, and they've got their corporate feeding buddies right there with them. But they didn't hit the 75%. We saw that. Whenever you ask nicely, they will tell you no, firmly. And so, the voluntary deal didn't work. They set triggers in there that were almost impossible to hit, and we hit them immediately. The triggers that they weren't trading enough. So the policy was with NCBA is, if the voluntary 75% of a robust market deal doesn't work, then they are going to, and I'd even seen it stated aggressively, but they are going to pursue either regulatory or legislative fixes to get packers to to participate in negotiated trade. Here we are. Here we are right here, and here's a bill that you can get behind, and then we won't even have to worry about it. It'll just push through. Do I think that NCBA will get behind it and push this time? I actually don't. I don't think so. I think the votes will prevail, and then they've been working on a lot of the other state affiliates that don't really know what they're talking about, like California, and they've got them to come in and oppose mandatory minimum levels. So there's likely the votes aren't going to be right, but there's going to be some guys in there, and some of the guys I know really well, you know, in Iowa and Missouri and places that have been fighting for this deal, in Nebraska, and they're going to put up a good argument, and they're going to put up a good fight. But just because they're likely going to lose the vote at NCBA does not mean that this bill is dead. Chuck Grassley is a senior senator, pulls a lot of weight, and he has not budged a bit from wanting to get some kind of a mandate on trade. He works for his people in Iowa, and he's not going to give up on them. Deb Fischer has not wavered. So that was her bill and his bill that they put together and compromised. Deb Stabenow is the Senate Ag Committee chairman. She hasn't wavered either. They all want this. Mr. Magoo, our President Biden, has endorsed this bill, and so has the Secretary of Agriculture. So you got all these Democrats that don't know, you know, which end of a steer the feed goes in and which end comes out. They will likely vote for this if we get it put up for vote, if we get it through and get it put up on the floor and get it voted for, because the president and his Secretary of Ag has put that in. But it'd sure be nice if you could get NCBA to come in with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if NCBA is not getting a little bit of word like, hey, we kind of want to do this. The White House administration is wanting to blame a lot of this inflation in the groceries, you know, on your monopolies by your big meat processors. So we kind of want this, guys. Can you give us a little help here? We want to push this through. If they would do it, it would just go right through. But man, it's tough to get to do it. U.S. Cattlemen's Association and their affiliates have been behind this from the start. You guys know I'm pretty active with them. I was there the night we decided to push this. It's been a while back. We've had a jillion conference calls, a jillion meetings, and we've had our head run up against the wall a million times. And you guys think, why is it so important to you? You know, you're giving the markets here. That's the very fact. Yeah, I make the biggest part of my living giving the markets to you guys, you know, over this forum right here. If we lose, if we don't get this, and this negotiated trade continues to go like it is, we are right in the same path as the hogs, and I don't think it'll take long enough for me to get too much grayer. We will get there. I'm a big cattle auction proponent. You guys know that. We won't have to have cattle auctions much longer after that. And you say, oh, come on, how's that work? Look at the hogs. Look at the hogs, people. When they wiped out your independent hog feeder, we did away with negotiated trade. Everything, you know, there were no stockyards anymore, no country point deliveries where guys could pick where they wanted to go depending on the bid. When it got to where you just hauled your hogs in there and they told you what you were going to get for them, which is the way it is now, but everybody's under contract with your packers. Then when they did that, there was no more independent hog feeders. So when we get to that point, when there's no more independent cattle feeders, they will just contract everything down to weaning. What do you need sale barns for then? You know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I first started with USDA Market News, we had huge feeder pig sales that we went to, huge ones. And we went to them, and people were there, and they'd have big strings of hogs, all different kinds of hogs before they all started raising the same kind, because they started pushing them down a narrow path. We had all kinds of different hogs. People came in and they were proud of their hog consignment, their feeder pig consignment. And people would buy feeder pigs and take them home and feed them. Then they would have fat hogs, and they would take them and sell them at a stockyards or at a country buying station or something like that. Well, then when they took the hogs to 8 cents a pound, no more of that. They were done. That was over. Well, they'll do the same thing with the cattle guys. And you people that love your sale barn and love your true price discovery that you get in your auction markets, that won't last much longer, guys. Your big outfits will have everything, and then they don't want to have to negotiate. They don't want to have to get in and bid against other people that want them. They just want to have everything contracted, and they will contract down to the few people that are still left to have cows. You guys that have 40 or 50 cows, or even 60 or 80 or 100 cows, and you take them you take your calves to the sale to cash them in, they're going to rub you guys out. You won't be able to survive because you just won't have enough margin in there, and you won't have enough cattle to get into the contract deal. Everybody's just going to be a contract grower. That's just like the hogs, just like the chickens. But I tell you what, if I don't even know why we would need any kind of a cash. And I think that's kind of the way we're thinking here at U.S. Cattlemen's Association. If we can't get this deal through, our decision on what we should probably do then is just get rid of mandatory cash market reporting. Well, why do we need that cash market reporting? You know, your packers are just abusing it. And your guys that are putting these AMAs together and these formula deals together, they're just using that cash. They're absolutely abusing that cash market that they do not participate in, and to make their deals. Now they say, oh, it's not that big a part of it. It's the base. It's damn sure the base. What are you going to base it off of? You know, everybody wants to base it off of the boxed beef. There's nothing in this world that packers can manipulate more than boxed beef cutout values. You put them on the board, they're going to get even worse, and they're going to get more volatile. You can't do that. You don't price cotton off of underwear. People that raise cotton don't think they're in the underwear business. You people that are raising cattle shouldn't think you're in the beef business either. I got to save a little of this for some later visits. Let's talk about the board on Tuesday. February live cattle futures up 77 cents at 137.10. April was up 2 cents at 140.10. Had some recovery there after that big doomsday Monday, after that cattle and feed report that had nothing to do with more cattle, just where they were at. Cattle had to be somewhere, no place to turn them out, so they had to be in the feedlot. But we'll see the boon from that later on as we go forward, and all of a sudden we're out of cattle. But your back months on live cattle futures down 30 cents to up just 7. January feeder cattle up 7 cents is all at 158.55. March was down $1.40 at 159.85. Your back months on your feeder cattle down 57 to down $1.10. Moving right along with this report, your fat cattle trade did break out on Tuesday. We had some trade and kind of established the market, and it's mostly steady live and fully steady dressed. I do think that those are kind of token bids that your packers gave. Yes, they are wanting to step up slaughter, and they're wanting to speed up the chains a little bit and get things going again. But your board was still down, and they started bidding 137, which would be fully steady in the Southern Plains. They didn't have to do that. They realize everything that's going on with what I opened this report up with, and they don't want them beating the market down right now to be another chip on the shoulder of these people that are wanting this bill for minimum negotiated trade. But Iowa, about 1,400 head. Now their sales were mostly 136 live, but it was mostly dressed at 218, which was fully steady. Nebraska, 8,100 head. That's what the market is. And the guys in the north, 137 and 218. Kansas sold 1,800 head confirmed on Tuesday, 137 and 218. Texas 2,100, had a little spread in there from 135 to 137, but it was mostly all 137. An auction where people bid on cattle at Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota, your best fat cattle market really at an auction, and it's up there in the Northern Plains. And they sold their cattle mostly from 136 to 141. Hauling them in there, people bidding on them like old times. And you think, well, that's antiquated. You know, it happens. And when they need the good cattle, especially your regional packers, they'll come in there and they'll pay more for them. Had a few sales up to 143 and a half. Some of the cattle had not been implanted. Some of them they called all natural, which is kind of a farce if you really look into it. But still, they paid more for cattle at auction. They always will. When you negotiate on things, you know, if you're buying and you've got other people in there that want them, it raises prices. But we're not really looking for this bill to make higher prices per se. We just want true price discovery. We want to find out what the market will bear. And guys just don't want to do it. They just want to take whatever the packers will give them. And I guarantee you, they'll get you strung out there, and then they will put their boot right on the top of your hat and push you under. Box beef cutout values were lower for the first time in a couple 3 weeks here. Choice cuts were down to $1.12 at $292.38. Selects down $147 at $283.32. Your slaughter, we had about as good a slaughter as we've had since we got back from Christmas, 118,000. So far for the week, just through Tuesday, 233,000. That's 3,000 more than last week, and same as the same week a year ago. If you guys are up in Montana and you'd like to come hear one of my presentations, I am going to be giving a presentation at the Beartooth Stock Association in Red Lodge, Montana on Saturday evening. And it's not one of these deals where you have to be a member or you have to have already registered or anything like that. Talk to Howdy Hildebrand. His daughter does the video similar like this once a week for DTN, and you've seen her before. Howdy, I've known him for quite a while. He and I have become friends. He's asked me to come there, and he told me on Tuesday, he said, anybody can come that wants to come. It's going to be Saturday evening at the fairgrounds, Red Lodge, Montana. I know a lot of people can't get there, but if some of you guys do live close to that area and want to come on out. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a lot of fellowship there and meet some friends, a lot of Feeder Flash gang members, and going to give the presentation that I typically give whenever I come to those things. But let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon. Real-time index on DV auction 158.47. Late in the day on Tuesday, that was down 4 cents, but not terrible. Remember, it was down way over $1 just on the one day of the down market on Monday. But some of your Tuesday markets were better because they held that thing up. It's a 7-day moving average. We saw CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index come in with Monday's sales on it, and it was down under 160, also like your real-time index is 159.77. But talk about some of your sales that happened on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard, West Plains, Missouri, 3,300 in the barn, another 750 on their in-house video that they do with DV Auction. And it's always nice when I have a reporter that I trust in a sale barn. Dan Hill, good friend of mine, works for Missouri Department of Agriculture. He reports that market. He had a really good trainer. Steer calves $3 to $6 lower. Heifer calves steady to $4 lower. And the few yearlings that they had sold steady to firm, but still a good market there, West Plains, Missouri. Beaver County Stockyards down in no man's land on the east side of the Oklahoma Panhandle there. 2,500 feeders on Tuesday. And I looked at the automated market report. They don't have a market reporter there, but steers sold steady to $4 higher, and it was mostly steers. The heifers they had on hand were $2 to $5 lower. Look at this automated market report from Beaver County Stockyards, Beaver, Oklahoma. Your best tested weights of steers, 290 head of 5-weight steers. All of them that they had averaged 555 pounds at 190.99. That's pretty salty for the Southern Plains guys. 222 head of 6-weight steers averaged 656 with a weighted average price of 169.82, nearly 170 weighing in your heavy sixes. And there's no place drier than this world, I guarantee you, than Beaver, Oklahoma. 412 head, 7-weight steers averaged 741 with a weighted average price of 160.24. And on your big yearling 8-weight steers, 517 of them there, a lot of them in loads, averaged 853 pounds with a weighted average price of 153.90. Pretty good sale for as dry as it is in that part of the country, and they have a good sale there every Tuesday at Beaver County Stockyards. A few more individual quotes around. How about Alma, Nebraska at the Alma Livestock Auction? 56 head, 800-pound steers, bring 164 and a quarter. It's hard to get them in the 60s, guys. How about Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota? They sold 71 head, 516-pound steer calves at $216. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your National Beef Wire top quote for the day, come out of Atkinson Livestock Market, your old reliable right on the yellow brick road there in Atkinson, Nebraska. 119 head, 688-pound steer calves, bring $180. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.